from the Gospels. We've been making our way through the Gospel according to John, sometimes called the most mystical of the four Gospels, a favorite then for many Unity ministers. But John is telling us the stories now and recalling the work of Jesus in his time on earth. And this was a special festival time in Jerusalem. At that time, the festival of dedication took place in Jerusalem. It was winter, and Jesus was walking in the temple in the portico of Solomon. So the Jews gathered around him and said to him, "How long will you keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly." Jesus answered, "I have told you, and you do not believe. The works that I do in my Father's name testify to me, but you do not believe, because you do not belong to my flock. My sheep hear my voice. I know them, and they follow me. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand. What my Father has given me is greater than all else, and no one can snatch it out of the Father's hand. For the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one." Today I wanted to address you on the source of this ministry, of our community, calling it our Community Wellspring. Many of us living here at the lake depend upon a well for our water supply. It isn't delivered to us through a pipe by the city, but it's drawn from the well. But a well must be prepared. It must be drilled. It must be built. God provides the water through the beauty and power of our natural world. But we have to make an effort to drill to where the water is and to bring it forth. The affirmation we use today in the prayer time, and that you find in your bulletin, is a very central affirmation to unity. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore used this back around World War I and in the 1920s, when unity was growing almost faster than they knew what to do. By the mid-1920s, they had 6 monthly magazines in publication. 6 different ones they had to put out. They had hundreds of thousands of subscribers to send those magazines to. They were publishing many books. Silent Unity, the prayer ministry, required several hundred workers because they were getting so many requests for prayer support. As a matter of fact, I noted in the year 1926, they set a record. You see, back in those days, they would type an individual letter to Connie, for example, if she wrote to them. Not that she was there back in 1926. I did not mean that. But had she been, and she requested prayer support from Silent Unity, they would write a letter just to her. As a novelty, they all had typewriters with special purple ribbon. All the letters went out in purple type print. And they'd prepare that letter, and they would speak to her on her prayer concern. Maybe it was health, maybe it was prosperity, maybe it was her career. And send her encouraging words and continue to hold that prayer request for Connie for 30 days is the tradition. But in 1926, they were very excited that the workers managed in one day to prepare and mail out 19,000 letters. It took several hundred people, and by the end of the 1920s, Unity employed 600 people on its staff to do the work that people were asking of it, between publishing, the prayer ministry, The oldest religious radio station in the United States was operated by Unity, and many other activities. But this affirmation that I mentioned is what the Fillmores used as a focus for those 600 employees, as well as all of the people in Kansas City that came to Unity activities, and all those around the country and beyond the United States that wanted to be associated with the work of Unity. I used to speak this affirmation for many years just in trust, because the Fillmores said it, because Unity used it. But eventually, through consistent use of that and recalling it to my mind, it finally began to take on meaning, or at least I found meaning in it. And I wanted to share that because I believe that it can be a focusing instrument for our church and our ministry. You know, we are at a point of change. I've been here almost a year and 3/4. By the end of the summer, you will have known me for 2 years, and Larry Hall will have known me for many years beyond that. But we are in a time of change with our church. As many of you know, some of our wonderful founding and charter members have moved on, either to another place to live, or they have literally moved on from this life. And we've had new people coming in. I see some of them this morning. I won't call them out by name. But this is good, but we're in a transition, like generations changing. And it's important that we be able to hold our focus so that we can keep this church strong, active, financially stable, and keep these doors available for all the people in the Lake community who would benefit from coming into our community. So this affirmation, in our unity of purpose, we are guided by infinite wisdom and prospered by divine love. In our unity of purpose, in our willingness to come together as a community, as a church, and willingly focus on our mission, our unity of purpose. If we do that consistently, rhythmically, steadfastly, with perseverance, there are many, many words for this stability. If we do that, Spirit's promise is it will pour itself into us, into our community, as infinite wisdom. Well, a simpler way to say infinite wisdom is we will have the guidance from our board of trustees, through the different committees of the church. We will have the guidance we need to steer our ministry forward. And it continues. We will be prospered by divine love. Charles Fillmore spoke of divine love as truly a spiritual substance, essence, that underlies all the good in our life. All things, all relationships, all buildings, all made from God's spiritual substance or love. So this affirmation is basically telling us that if we stick to our purpose, Spirit will provide not only the guidance, the wisdom, but also the very substance. We can call it the daily bread, as Jesus did in the Lord's Prayer. What we need to fulfill our purpose. That is divine substance or divine love. So in this one formula, he was giving Unity people of that day, and there were many, he was giving them a formula. Let's stick to our purpose. Let's support it consistently. Let's be involved. And Spirit will respond, providing all that is necessary for our good work. And so it did for Unity in those years. They built a great deal. At that time, they began acquiring the land at Unity Village in Lee Summit. By 1925, they had almost all 1,400 acres that exists today was purchased by 1925 and assembled and became that place we call Unity Village, Missouri. So essentially what I'm speaking about today is the power of rhythm, of consistency, of steadfastness. Now, I've been working with this myself. Last Sunday, I began to have the symptoms of allergy response. Oh, those wonderful plants out there and all their abundant pollen. Wonderful for the plants, a challenge for me. And I began having difficulty breathing. Well, for those of you that know that I've been working several months trying to get over this peculiar pneumonia in my lungs. This is not a good thing to have something else to struggle with in regards to your breathing. So fortunately, they make these wonderful little devices that go on your finger like that. Many of you may have experienced it in the hospital. They use them all the time. And that wonderful little device immediately tells me, one, the level of oxygen in my blood, and also my pulse. And there's an interesting relationship. As the oxygen level goes down in my blood, less vitality, you might say, you can see the pulse, the heart rate, going up and up and up as the heart is trying to compensate and build up the oxygen in the blood. Well, that's fine, but one doesn't want to go on with a tremendously rapid heartbeat for a long period of time. So I've been watching and checking this. The doctor said, get into my office today. So I went up to Jefferson City and she loaded me up with some new allergy medicine and some helpful things and said to keep an eye on myself. But it really gave me a good opportunity to work with this idea of rhythm. You see, Rudolf Steiner said life, spirit, whichever word you want to use, is carried on rhythm. It's carried on rhythm. Why, our body, and my body is particularly talking to me about this right now, rhythm. If I am going to be well and physically healthy and strong, my breathing must be consistent. My heart rate must be at a proper level. Not too fast and not too slow, but where it needs to be. And on that rhythm, my life, at least physically, is sustained. You could like it if you like the musical metaphor. The melody or essence of music is carried on rhythm. There is always an underlying rhythm to any example of music. It's what carries the melody. Rudolf Steiner had a wonderful word in one of his meditative verses, and the one line states, human soul, you live in the beat of heart and lung. In other words, our existence as a living soul in this world is carried by the beat of the heart and the lung, this physical rhythm. The best part is the wonderful German word that he used to express that. Herz und Lungen schlagen. I love it. One long word. And it meant heart and lung rhythm. How important that Herz und Lungen schlagen was. It had to keep going for there to be activity. Well, how does this relate to our community, our church? In exactly the same way. Each one of you is a unique breath. We might say breath of fresh air. And a unique pulse or impulse, like the heartbeat, for this church. But as a community, we have to maintain a certain consistency and regularity for the life of the church to be carried by. So, with the summer, we run into the challenge that many of us have a lot to do and a lot of activities in different places. And so I wanted to bring at our attention this time. Many people have asked me in the past year and 3/4 that I've been here, what can we do to grow the attendance of this church? The board of trustees has the constant responsibility of the financial stability of the church. How do we grow the income? Well, it's not so much about talking about unknown people out in the community. How do we attract them and pull them in to the church? It's more a question for each one of us. What is my part to play? What is for me to do? We all have different gifts. Some choose in the church to apply a particular gift of theirs, whether it be gardening or food or welcoming or repairing or doing the things necessary for our physical home here. Say, yes, I can do that, and I can do it consistently. I make a commitment to do it on a regular basis, because it's just like that breath or that heartbeat. Jackie's not going to feel very good, for example, if she has 3 heartbeats this week and then she takes off because that's too much trouble. And maybe next week she'll have another heartbeat or 2. It would not bode well for her physical well-being. There must be that rhythm and there must be that consistency. Now, as I said, we are all busy. We all have different activities. This Unity Church is not 100% of our life, but for those who find it to be an important part of their life, a valuable part of their life, your selfless service and your presence is important. As often as you can, not just Sunday mornings when most of us come together, but there are other activities during the week. Debbie and Lee have been working to assemble volunteers for Harbor Hop. Right now, the church is already going to make $1,600, but with a few more volunteers, we can surpass $2,000 this month in that particular fundraiser. And then there's the golf tournament. Maybe golf is not your cup of tea, but there are other activities, and there are classes, and there are many ways that we come together. And it's our opportunity to be a part of that breathing, that heartbeat of our church, to sustain this church. And then there's a way that really, I think, calls to the very greatest part of ourselves. And that is when we want to support and nourish something because we believe that it stands for a greater good, for the greater world. I'll give you an example. When I first started here, one of my dear friends back in Syracuse, New York, where I came from, and I worked with her in Unity for many years, one of the members of the church, she wrote a letter, and she said, I will be supporting you. So for the last year and 3/4, every month, she sends $150 to help our church. Well, that's amounted to now into the thousands of dollars. I take her as an example because, you see, she's never been here. She's never been to the Ozarks. She doesn't get the personal blessing of coming here and greeting all of your smiling faces, of enjoying our refreshments, our First Friday concerts. Oh, she's wanted to learn about them and stay in touch, but she doesn't get to personally benefit, shall we say, from that activity. her sole purpose is wanting to support a unity ministry in a place she's never even seen, because she knows that a unity church is a place of value, that it brings something good not only to individuals, but to its community. In thinking about her, it reminded me of that famous statement from our President Kennedy at his inauguration when he asked people, and well, it was really a challenge. Don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. He turned it. But it's not really a case of either or in a unity ministry. We all come in and receive some kind of benefit to our heart, mind, and soul, or we don't come back. But we also can give. Your presence here on a Sunday morning, at other times, in a class, your smiling face, your listening ear, your kind greeting may be what a newcomer needs desperately. So showing up on a Sunday should not be entirely about one's individual need, but partially about what an individual can do for the church. And so here we have, in giving and receiving a blessing, giving and receiving ourselves, another form of rhythm, like breathing. And there should be a balance in it. Charles Fillmore said many years ago to someone who wrote to him, he said, well, take care of yourself. He said, don't be working for truth, for unity so much that you fail to take care of yourself. So there's always a balance. It's mystified me for years until I became a minister and learned about burnout, that people in a unity center would say, I need to take a few weeks off. This is kind of wearing me out. And the idea that always came to mind is, this is supposed to sustain you, nourish you, this place. What is out of balance here that this individual feels burned out? Well, probably because they're volunteering too much. They're giving disproportionately to what they're receiving. So it's all about this Herz und Lungenschlagen, this balance between the breathing and the heart, between giving and receiving, in doing your part and also receiving your blessing. I would like to invite you in our time of meditation. We're going to turn our attention within, and using this metaphor or this principle of consistent rhythm, just like we desire for our heart and our lung. What is my consistent rhythm in this ministry? Do I have a feeling that I am giving too much? Perhaps I am looking too much for blessing and not offering support. There's a balance for each one of us to find, and a balance for us to find as a church community. Why? Because new members or new visitors that come to this church, they feel the vitality of a church. They feel the joy from our daily word this morning, a true joy that wells up within our community. And they want to come back because everybody wants to be a part of a healthy organism, as it were. So we're going to take a few moments in the silence that each one of us may be inwardly guided as to our best way and most balanced way to support ourselves and to support our community that we call Unity Church. So I invite you to turn your attention within. Rudolf Steiner said, we can have a significant meditation in just a couple of minutes if we can truly shift our attention from our outer concerns to the inner reality of the Spirit within us. Charles Fillmore declared that the true power of the Christ in Jesus was this statement, I and the Father are one, that consistently, steadfastly, Jesus knew the power within. It was this connection to his Father, his Creator, his God. It was like a continual spiritual breathing process in his mind. I and the Father are one. So we begin this process by affirming the truth that we are one with our Creator, with the very Spirit of life. For our mind tells us that if we were separated from this source of life, even for a moment, we would no longer exist. So there is a Spirit sustaining us. And we can ask questions of this Spirit of truth. It is always good to seek its guidance. What is my task? What is my purpose? What is for me to do in this community? So let us take a moment in the silence to allow the Spirit to inspire us from within. To guide us on the path that is uniquely ours within this community. Jesus declared this spiritual promise. He said, ask, and it shall be given. Ask, and it shall be given. Spirit will always answer our seeking, will always answer our question. So I invite you, beyond this morning, beyond this day, throughout the days to come, to revisit this question. What is my task? What is my special gift to this ministry? That it may be a vital, consistent, strong, inspiring presence in this lake community and beyond. Our work, our essential unity of purpose, is a good and valuable mission or work in our community and beyond. So gently now, as you allow your attention to return to the sanctuary and the friends with whom you are seated, you can gently open your eyes. And this is not a one-time proposition. I encourage you, if you value this community and your part in it, that you continually revisit both the question of your purpose, your gift in this ministry, and secondly, that balance between giving and receiving. Am I in a balanced place with the blessings I receive and the gifts I offer? Think of that. The breathing of your soul, the breathing and heartbeat of this, our church. And I thank you for considering these questions.